Today's episode of the Mind Sculptors podcast is sponsored by TCG Player, your source for all your trading card game needs. Use our link in the description the next time you get your cards to help support the show. Today's episode is also made possible by our Patreon subscribers. If you want to support the show directly, head over to patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors and you can become part of the SCULPTY family today. Or if you don't want to do any of that, leave a like and comment on YouTube or a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as an offering to Algorithm Jesus.
Welcome everybody back to the Mind Sculptors. I'm Cal.
I'm the ghost of Ian.
The ghost of Christmas Ian, or of Ian's past.
You are just butchering the genre.
Listen, that's kind of a horror. It's like a horror Christmas book, right? I'm not. Yes, that is
in like the slimmest of genres, but yes, I guess. And then when Tiny Tim gets on the screen, I'm always quaking in my boots. Like.
Oh my goodness. We were off the air last week. Mr. Ian was on vacation, a much needed vacation, I might add.
And I totally got to enjoy my vacation, and there wasn't multiple interruptions due to
you were on the phone with people having meetings.
No.
Definitely not. You were just enjoying Disney World. You did go to Disney World, correct?
We went to Epcot specifically.
Epcot. Okay.
Yes. Lou and I decided to drink and eat around the world, and it was awesome because it's their food festival right now. So we had a great time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you that you got to at least eat and drink around the world.
Yeah. I mean, joking aside, like it was a lovely, despite not being able to fully get away, we had a great time, and I appreciate the Mind Sculptors audience for being so patient while we take a break.
Yeah. We could have tried to fit in a recording session, but I was just like, there's, I don't know if anybody's noticed the last few weeks in this community. But
a bit cray cray.
It's been interesting. It's been interesting. There's something in the water. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. But yeah, let's talk about Universes Beyond Monster House, the latest set from Wizards of the Coast. And let's dig right into this. Let's look at these commanders because we got some cool ass commanders.
We do have cool ass commanders for sure.
What is an ass commander?
We got so much ass.
So let's just kick it off. Let's go right here with a toy. You've got a friend in me, It is Arabella, Abandoned Doll. This is a 1/3 toy artifact creature that costs a red and a white and says whenever Arabella, Abandoned Doll, attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less.
I think it's a 99 card, not really a Helm of a Commander deck. It's probably a little small ball for the Helm of a deck, but it's just like the damage it puts out is not insignificant, right? And if you ever were to like play this as a commander, it would be like a very interesting stacks deck because you probably play like turbo tiny creatures, right? And then just start chunking everybody for like 6 damage of combat, looping a couple extra combats, and then like get them dead pretty quick. Like it has the capability of being an aggro card. I also could see it in the 99 of Winota.
I was going to say, I was like, what deck do you see this in specifically? Like the best home for it. And I was kind of thinking it reads like a Winota card.
Yeah. Winota, Jetmir, like those kind of decks could probably test it. I don't think it's like, the next truth, right? But it's not bad by any means.
Right. Well, I mean, it's going to take a lot
Yeah.
To make Winota great again. Next card on our list here is Nashi, Searcher in the Dark. This is a 2/2 rat ninja wizard with a menace, and it costs a blue and a black. And it says, whenever Nashi, Searcher in the Dark deals combat damage to a player, you mill that many cards. You may put any number of legendary and or enchantment cards from among them into your hand. If you put no cards in your hand this way, put a +1/+1 counter on Nashi. So this is a little mill thing. I don't remember.
For me, it's a little mill thing.
I don't remember if I added this or not. Or if you added this.
I added this one.
Okay.
That's great, Cal.
That's gonna cut great.
It's people have been messing around with it in my Discord. Actually, this is kind of cute. And the idea is that it's like probably one of the more efficient blue-black commanders that have come out. Just sort of historically, the idea is more so you like hit people, you mill some cards over, you pick up things like Razaketh and stuff like that, and like use it as like blue-black reanimator style card. It's like really decent card advantage for like a 2-drop, right? It gets pretty big, and then if you whiff on stuff, right, the worst case scenario is it just pumps up your commander a little bit, right? So I don't think this commander is like absolutely insane by any means, but I could easily see like a blue-black mid-range reanimator list coming out of this commander.
Reanimator can only be so bad, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's a ninja, so I could see a world where you play it in Yuriko, but that's not what we're talking about.
As a commander.
Yeah.
No, I actually felt like Yuriko got some like pretty good guards this set, believe it or not. I was actually pretty like enthused, one might say, but which is saying a lot because I'm normally not very enthused by Yuriko, but
yeah.
Next card on our list here is the Jolly Balloon Man. This is a 1/4 human clown that costs a generic, a red, and a white, has haste, and for 1 generic mana, you can tap it and create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, except it's a 1/1 red balloon creature in addition to its other colors and types, and it has flying and haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, and you can only activate as a sorcery. This is where I'm going to insert the clip from Scrubs of JD singing and dancing to 99 red balloons.
I think this is probably the most disturbed Magic card of all time, truly. And I love it.
They just straight up printed the backside of Fable the Mirror Breaker on a commander, which is wild.
Yeah, I think this card's really, really cool. But activate only as a sorcery is a bit of a fucking bummer, if I'm being honest. But I do think this card is really strong. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you like Kiki Jiki-esque decks, then you're gonna really enjoy this commander. I think it's funny because you can do like every Kiki Jiki combo doesn't go infinite with this commander, but what they do is you basically get X copies where X is your life total, right? Or X is the amount of mana you can pay into it, right? So it's like if you have like a Resto Angel or a Felidar. I mean, Resto specifically I like a lot in this because it's a 3-power creature, right?
Right.
So you can then start just going like, okay, I'm going to deal like 15 damage to people this turn. That's not why I'm saying play this card, but like that is just it doesn't do because they become 1/1s.
They become
Never mind.
1/1s, yeah.
Damn it. Okay, ignore that part. But we did see like a fair Kiki deck, right? So all the Kiki bottoms work with whatever you want to play in this deck, right? It does also copy legendaries. So if you have legendaries that have powerful ETBs, it does copy those. It's like kind of a weird quasi haste enabler for certain cards too, right? Because you just play it and then with 1 mana make a copy of your commander and then it gets haste, right? So in a sense it gives a creature haste for the turn, right? It's really powerful with Dockside, obviously. You can play Kiki in the 99 because it's that, right? And then you can also play, and this is kind of the upgrade against decks like Kiki, is like you can play more disruptive pieces like Deafening Silence and stuff like that in the 99 of the deck, so that you can start to leverage your like sort of middling value that you get from the Jolly Balloon Man, right?
And you also just kind of get like more like a little bit more tutor access with the second color. I think that's
absolutely.
Big upside is getting both Imperial Recruiter and Recruiter of the Guard is like a huge deal.
I mean, Ranger Captain too, right? Like that's not insignificant. Like the fact that you can make a Ranger Captain every turn is like pretty good if you want to be proactive, right? Once again, the sorcery restriction makes it not busted, but which is that part saddens me so much, but it's fine. Yeah, and so like that part's really cool. I think it's a really unique and interesting commander. I would not be surprised to see it take down an event, or at least like top 16 one, right? Make the top cut. I think it's going to be really, really cool. I think finding out what the best versions of its effect are is going to be the interesting part about this build, right?
Feels like a Village Bellringer deck to me.
Well, I was going to mention that too, is that Village Bellringer and a creature that makes a mana goes infinite, right? Because you just like, you tap that creature for mana, use it to activate the Balloon Man, make a copy of Bellringer, untaps both things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you have two of those, you make infinite mana on top of making infinite Bellringers. Not that you need it.
Just so like there's injury at that point.
Yeah, exactly. There's quirky stuff you can do with it. I also like the fact that like you can play what's the stupid card? Like Fanatic of Mogus is a playable card in the deck, which is just
that's like hilarious. That is
ETB
really
deal
funny.
damage equal to the amount of red creatures you have, right? Or red devotion you have, right? So you can just do shit like that. There's a lot of like really cute stuff there. Once again, the sorcery speed restriction definitely bums me out because a lot of like the really cool stuff you can do isn't quite there.
Yeah.
But it's like the top 10% of interactions you lose, but you still get like 90% of really cool interactions, right? Like, and once again, being able to take in white stacks effects help a lot.
Yeah. Moving on to the next deck, or to the next commander on our list here. This is the Master of Keys. Master of Keys, pull in your keys.
Open your door, I got so many keys.
Master of Keys is a 3/3 horror enchantment creature that costs X generic mana and an Esper. It has flying and says when Master of Keys enters, put X +1/+1 counters on it and mill twice X cards. Each enchantment card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. Y'all are pretty familiar with how escape works at this point. So
actually
this
played
is
against. Yeah, I played against a Master of Keys for a recording for a YouTube channel that you all may know very, very well. And let's just say them,
play to win.
I'm not going to say
the Sculpty Boys gameplay channel.
Oh no, they found out. No, but let's just say we lost multiple games in a row to that deck, so it did a good amount of work. Now I will say the deck didn't really win with the commander, but it's fine.
I will say, as a commander, one of the things I gotta say this right off the top. So when this got spoiled, I immediately saw multiple people building this as like a stack deck, which really boggled my mind, because I don't look at this and go, oh yeah, stacks. I look at this and go, oh cool, I can reanimate my Thassa's Oracle and just win. That's cool. Like, because all you have to do is mill your library and then you just cast an animate dead and game's over. And so like, what'd you say?
I said GG.
Yeah. And so
it's like, also, it's a Hullbreaker outlet too, which is worth noting. Yep.
Yeah. It's a really good kitten deck. It feels like it has, so I think my biggest criticism of it is that I feel like it wants to do a lot of very similar things to a deck like Tivit, which is really interesting as far as the way the pieces that it uses to win the game. And I think the biggest issue people are going to run into immediately is people, because it's Esper, are going to think, oh, I need to play these control-y stacks pieces, but those are pieces that will quite abruptly stop this deck from winning.
Sure.
And I think that's going to be the Achilles heel of this deck, is going to be a Grafdigger's Cage. And that kind of turns out to be like the Achilles heel of like most decks these days.
In the format? Yeah.
But that is a thing that I think is a big downer on this, because usually when you're in Esper, you can afford to play cards like that. And I think that is one of the things that I think is a knock against it, is because of the way this deck works. and this commander works is you're kind of incentivized not to play stacks pieces because of their way that they're going to disrupt your game plan. And I think that's ultimately my biggest issue with it.
I think I really like it as a reanimator commander because of everything you mentioned too, like the fact that we have Dance of the Dead, Animate Dead, Reanimate, or not Reanimate, but like Necromancy, like all of those, and that's like the best ones, right? We have more shittier enchantment reanimates cards,
and
right?
You got some new cards that work with this too. Like, I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that's really cool about it.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff there, and I did make an allusion to the deck that we played against and that recording, but like also playing against that deck, I think there was a really cool archetype that kind of got explored that you used to work on quite a lot that we can talk about after recording. I don't want to spoil the whole gameplay episode, but it kind of opened up.
You got to tell me what the fuck you're talking about so I know.
Yeah, so
no, this is really cool. I am interested to see the direction people take with it. Again, like I said, I think there are some pretty big weaknesses that this deck is going to have to overcome. And I think as long as people don't play responsible cards in their deck, like, you know, Grafdigger's Cage, or I mean, hell, I've seen people cutting like Drannith from their decks. Like, if that's the world that we're going to live in, then this will do great. But, you know, as soon as people start playing more, you know, eating their fruits and vegetables, one might say, I think this might get hit by some of those cards in a pretty unfavorable way. But that's it. That being said, I know that I sound like I don't like this card, but I think this is really fucking cool. This is like right up my alley. So
hell yeah.
That's what I think.
Wait, next card. You like an Esper deck? That's weird.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird. I would like a blue and white deck. It's so off brand for me. I usually like red green decks. Creatures all the way, man. Next card on our list is Victor, Valgavoth's Seneschal. This is a 3/3 human warlock that costs a generic, a white, and a black, and says whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, surveil 2. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn, if it's the second time this is resolved, each opponent discards a card. If it's the third time, put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. I gotta say, this set has had some of the wordiest cards.
Oh, it's crunchy. Yeah, it's a crunchy worded set for sure.
I mean, for the we don't talk about this card, I don't think, but I mean, there is a card in this set that lists out prime numbers on it.
Yeah,
like that's the world we live in right now. So like the set is a lot, but that being said, rooms are a new enchantment type that got introduced in the set, and Victor seems to be a commander that cares about them. What are your thoughts on this? I know Phoenix was talking about this as a good white-black commander. What are your thoughts?
It's not really necessarily. So this cares about enchantments. It doesn't. The room part is just like sort of incidental, right?
Right. Sure.
This is an enchantment reanimator commander, which I think is kind of interesting. Now, the gimmick is going to be like, how many enchantments can you play in a turn? If X equals 3, then you've literally set up an entire reanimate during your turn. Now, if X equals only 1 and occasionally 2 per turn, this commander gets considerably worse. But on the other hand, white-black discard as a strategy is not too bad. And then like giving yourself, once again, it's just like Jolly Balloon Man, where it's like, yeah, it's not Tiny Bones in the zone, right? But it turns out adding white to your low color deck is actually not a bad thing, right? So if you're looking at like these sort of black X discard strategies, which historically have just been underrepresented in cEDH, not for lack of strength, right? They're just, once again, more difficult to play, just like a classic stack strategy. And it's a strategy that Wizards in their printings has been giving more tools to, but they just look fucking weird. Like, you're going to look at this common from Eldraine that says each opponent discards a card and go, why is that here, right? But when you apply it to something like this deck, where it's like, okay, now for a single black mana, I make every one of my opponents go down a card. I'm now surveilling 2. My second enchantment for turn allows me to shred another card out of their hands. And now for like 2 mana, I've shredded multiple cards out of my opponent's hands, and I'm going in, and if I can get a third one out, boom, reanimate my biggest threat.
I feel like you and I are the target audience for, we want a like Thoughtseize that works in Commander so desperately bad.
I have said that for a long time.
Like, I feel like you and I
have been, like the people who follow me have said that for a long time. Specifically, I've had many people in my comments be like, when are they printing Commander Thoughtseize? Because honestly, it would not be hard. You just take the templating of Thoughtseize, say each. And then, well, okay, so here's the difficult part, right?
Each opponent. You have to say each opponent.
We have to say each opponent, right? But the issue is you print that into a standard set, right? And then they have to think about, oh, now there's a Thoughtseize in the standard set, right? So, but I think you could easily put that in a Commander product.
Just put it in a Commander product. Who gives a shit?
But you also have to take the to consider, right? You go, hey, here's a Commander product where we have a Thoughtseize in it, and on a casual level, that's going to be like, fuck, what, really? You know. I think it's doable, but it is something that I know people in LotC have to like take that time to consider, right?
Give me EDH Thoughtseize, you cowards.
I think it would actually just be like a really good card design that is just, it feels free, to be honest. Like it does feel like a free thing they could do. Right?
I think some people might say something about how it's like, oh, but then you'd have 2 Thoughtseizes and Legacy, and it's like, who gives a shit about Legacy?
Well, right, but you can easily do it like Battle Pawn land templating, right? Yeah. If you have 2 or more opponents, this card costs 2 less.
Yeah,
no one's gonna pay a 1 or 2, or no one's gonna pay like a 2 or 3 mana Thoughtseize in Legacy, right?
And then you get you guarantee that like the Turbo Nos players don't want to play it because they don't want the Nos hit.
Yeah, so, true. Actually,
that's actually really smart. Look at you, Ian. You're a smarty pants. This is a cool commander. You and I have been wanting to play classic, redo Jund in this format for a while.
Don't let me into that. No, I have not.
Sure you do. Sure you do. You absolutely want to be able to do that.
Don't accuse me of wanting to play gross Jund. Jund is like not me at all.
Oh man, that's the most crunchy mid-range deck I can imagine. Next card on our list here is Aminatou, Veil Piercer. This is a 2/4 human wizard that costs a generic, a white, a blue, and a black. That says at the beginning of your upkeep, Surveil 2. Has a second ability that has each enchantment card in your hand has Miracle. Its miracle cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 4. And you may cast a miracle card for its miracle cost when you draw it if it's the first card you drew this turn. For those of you who started playing Magic in the last decade, you might not be familiar with Miracle. So this is an interesting commander. What are your thoughts on it?
I really think this is a cool card design.
Mm-hmm.
Base level at the beginning of your upkeep, Surveil 2 every turn. I do not think that is bad. That is cool. We want that. Do I wish it was a 3-drop? Yes. But I think this commander opens up some really interesting play space. I think this is so for those who do not aren't following my every thought pattern. Esper and
for those of you who aren't in my brain,
who are who haven't been following me for like a really, really long time, but like white, black, and blue, black, and basically X amount of low color Academy Rector style decks are something that I have messed around with and never sleeved up for like a really long time, because a lot of the times, especially without blue, right? The white black payoffs for those, like I have been trying to make Tevesh Timna work for a really, really long time, because the idea of like having a Tevesh out and then playing an Academy Rector and then sacking it to draw 2 cards is just like, but then the white black enchantment payoffs are not that great. Adding blue to the mix does make it better. Doesn't make it so much better that you're like fundamentally changing everything, right? But it definitely increases your options by quite a lot. So there's a lot of ways to basically set it up. So by the time you're actually playing Aminatou, you're realistically able to, well, let me see, because I'm not, each enchantment card has Miracle. It's Miracle. You may cast a card for its miracle cost when you draw it. Okay, yeah, so it is when you draw it. That's right. What I thought. So yeah, there are ways to do it. Also,
if it's the first card you drew this turn.
If it's the first card you drew this turn. And it is also important to note that it says this turn, right? So if you draw a flash enchantment on a different turn, you can...
No, it doesn't matter if it's...
If it has flash.
If it's on somebody else's turn and you draw a card, you can cast it right then and there.
That's fucking awesome.
That is how Miracle works. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's even better. Like this is going to be like the best Sensei's top deck, maybe in CEDH, right? Because you
Brainstorm coming back, baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, because Brainstorm doesn't work like that, right?
If it's in your hand, you can put it on top of your deck. You just have to do it the turn before.
Right. Yeah. So you have to set it up. Right. Yeah. But point being, there's a lot of really interesting interactions here. Consider gets a lot better too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Anyways, Cal and I are gonna cook because I can tell that we're doing the thing where we both go, oh yeah, that works. Oh yeah, that works. Hell yeah. Yeah, Miracles is kind of a really cool broken mechanic. Obviously, you have to make the deck work outside of the commander, but for 4 mana, I don't think it's going to be like a super heavy target of interaction. Like you can always hit the tops, you can always hit the brainstorms and considers and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you can set yourself up to take advantage of the ability, it's not like they're coming in for free, right? They're coming in for 4 less, but it's still 4 less on enchantments can yield some pretty fucking cool stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's really cool. And it's interesting to see Miracle make a little bit of a comeback here. It's has really only been used in like Avacyn Restored.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing, this really speaks to the control player in me, because I'm like blue-white Miracles in Legacy is like and even in Modern too, right, is like a very famous control deck. And having the idea, the prospect of being able to do that commander is tantalizing. So that will be exciting. Next commander on our list here is Kianne. I think that's how you say it. Kianne, Corrupted Memory.
I recorded an early release video of this for Scry Babies, and I said it like 18 different ways. I was like, Kianne, Kianne, Cayenne. Like
Kianne. Kianne, Corrupted Memory is a 2/2 illusion that costs 2 generic, a green, and a blue. And it says, as long as Kianne's power is even, you may cast non-creature spells as though they had flash. The other ability says, as long as Kianne's power is odd, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash. And whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Kianne. This is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this? This has, blue, green flash is not like a unheard of mechanic or even like archetype. What are your thoughts on this specifically, and how one Ian Flannery would build it?
I think it's a really interesting card for sure. And I think it opens up a really interesting archetype. Now, there are going to be times when you have a Ristic and a Mystic and stuff like that, or maybe even some more mandatory draw effects that will suddenly change. Like there's going to be times where you're going to be like, oh shoot, I got to draw a card right now. Let me flash in these mana rocks. Okay. Now I'll draw my card and let my commander trigger. You know what I mean? I guess that you can even respond to the trigger itself too, right? So that's kind of fun. I think it's a really interesting card. I love Flash as a way to play around multiplayer. I think it's super interesting, and I will definitely be building around it. The toughest part for this deck is going to be winning the game. It's for sure the rush me problem.
I mean, that's always kind of the like blue-green issue, right? Is it's like no matter what blue-green deck you're playing, it's like, okay, how do we win?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that will be the issue with it. That being said, I think it's a really cool design. I think you put this in a Seaborn Muse in a deck and you've made your own Prophet Accrue fix, and that's
build your own Prophet Accrue fix.
Build your own Prophet Accrue fix. Let's go. But no, like I think this is super cool. I'm really excited to see what people do with it. I think it's going to be hard, to be honest. I think it's gonna be harder than it looks, right? Because you need card draw, you need a way to win, you need a bunch of different stuff, right? So like that is not irrelevant.
It'll be interesting. The card's cool for sure.
Yeah.
Next card here. This card, I don't know this archetype well enough to like truly brew it, but it's a card that I can look at and know immediately that it's good. And that is Kona Rescue Beastie. I keep wanting to say Bestie, and I know that's wrong.
It's my rescue bestie.
My rescue bestie. That is a 4/3 beast survivor that says at the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Yep.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I got to see Cam from Play to Win, or not Cam, Dylan from Play to Win. I don't know why I've been doing that. I got to see Dylan from Play to Win play this yesterday, and the deck was fine. But when we were talking about the list, he was like, "Oh yeah, it's permanent," and I literally went, "Wait, what?" Because I think just having it be green creatures is awesome, but being permanent is like, whoa, there's a lot more stuff. Like the fact that you can just like
a lot of bullshit you can do with this.
Yeah, you can just like put a Phyrexian portal in on turn 2 or 3 is like pretty cool. I think this card's gonna be really interesting. You're gonna play it like Magda in a sense of like vehicles are gonna be important, Springleaf Drums are gonna be important, stuff that just like taps your stuff right away is gonna be really
will be important.
Yeah. I think Earthcraft is gonna be awesome in this deck.
Yep. And that's one of the things is part of why I like this card so much is it feels like a green commander that like meets the needs of what green needs to do good now, instead of trying to continually make it like Yisan or Selvala or these big mana or you tutor a creature out thing. It's looking for a different approach to how can we like make green stronger. And I think this is like a really, really good way of doing it. I think it's really clever.
I'm upset that it's specifically designed to not cheat in a Craterhoof Behemoth and have that matter, which makes me a little sad.
yeah, that they definitely did that on purpose. But one of the things I think the thing you put up or just mentioned there, right, is like Portal Phyrexia. That's huge. Honestly, like you can do things with, I mean, Godfarer's statue. You can do stuff with cursed, or what is it? Possessed portal lock. People with this. Like, I mean, there's so many things that you could do with this. And I think when you and I first saw it, I agree, because I immediately thought, okay, this is probably going to be something. It'll be like a little bit stronger, like Yisan or something like that, right? Or like a little bit stronger Selvala, or it might go into those decks, which it still very much might. But the I think it was like on the like second or third reading where I was just kind of like, oh, we can this is probably more of a stack deck, if anything.
Well, so that's the weird irony is like you want to play like your Springleaf Drums and your vehicles and stuff like that, but I'm like, this definitely also feels like an insane Collector Roof deck, which is the weird part. And I think you're willing to make that sacrifice, right? Because there's enough lands that light tap stuff. There's things like Earthcraft. There's the mana dorks that only make mana when you tap another creature. So I think there
are some of the like saddle creatures too that you can saddle.
So true.
And
I forgot about that entire mechanic.
Like you can just skirt around it if you play saddle creatures. So that is what I think is really fascinating about this. This feels like a viable stack in mono colors that is able to maneuver in a lot of really clever ways.
I think the challenge for the Brewers is going to be keeping up card advantage and also stopping your opponents. So like if you're working on that deck, know that that's your burden of proof right away. Like anyone can put together the idea that you can cheat and avoid win over turn 3, right? But it's how do you do the games where that's not just the thing you have, and also even in those games you're hoping that 11-9 lives long enough to be able to win the game. And trust me, as someone who plays a lot of Kianne, that's not how that works.
I think it's really cool, and it was a deck that really like an idea that really kind of resonated with me. So I'm excited to see if people latch onto it and do more with it, because it's definitely an idea that I'm interested in.
It reminds
me. I just don't know enough about mono green to build it on my own and like brew it.
It reminds me a lot of Winota in the sense that if it is good enough, it will bring more players to this format. You know what I mean? It will be one of those decks that is so silly and different from other decks that exist in the format that it will encourage more diversity for those things.
Well, and I really liked your comparison to Magda. I think that's like a really apt comparison. And I think part of what I will like about this a little bit more is this is it feels like this is going to have a little bit more like tough, like I know this is generic, like obviously it has more toughness, but like the fact that this can survive a Bowmaster incursion feels relevant to me.
Yeah, you could play this with no other creatures with mana value like 4 or less, right? Like that is a thing you could play this in this deck.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm interested to see how this goes. People out there who know green, please, 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 you know, do brew this.
What you just I saw the loading screen on you for a second. You were just like please was your brain going to Sabrina Carpenter? Is that why you broke there?
No, my brain was going to Smiths.
Okay.
You know, and I was like, how do I pull that around? And it just didn't come together. And I started to panic internally because I was like, oh no, I've been quiet too long.
That is the most real fucking ADHD moment where you just start saying something and you're like, I had 13 other thoughts in the second that it took for me to remember what I was actually talking about. You're like, oh my God, I had a whole conversation with myself in the second you were waiting for me to say something cohesive. Like,
next card on our list is Winter, Cynical, Opportunist. This is a 2/5 human warlock that costs 2 generic, a black, and a green. It has Death Touch and says whenever Winter attacks, mill 3 cards. It also has Delirium, and it says at the beginning of your end step, you may exile any number of cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. If you do, put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. This it's not bad. It's not bad.
I misread this card, and then I played against the precon, and I went, oh, fuck. This card is way better than I thought. Yeah, the ability to like, and so you're going to have to self-mill a little bit, right? But the idea is by the time...
Green, darn.
Yeah, bro.
Shoot.
In Golgari? No way.
No.
I mean, Witherbloom.
I have to dredge. Darn. Shoot.
Yeah. But the idea that it triggers right away in your end step is so good. And that, like, it doesn't have a minimum requirement of conditions, right? You can exile an artifact creature and like a land and a sorcery, right? And have those things and just immediately get a giant thing onto the battlefield, right? Like you can figure out, like, it doesn't say you need to exile 4 cards, right? You just need to match the conditions, right? So if you get like
Delirium just needs to be online.
Yeah. If you get an artifact creature and an Urza Saga, right? Which are like 4 card types within the exile bunch, it's like, boom, here's the artifact creature onto the battlefield right away, right? So it's a very interesting thing. As I said, permanent, right? So we just got done talking about how Kona is way better because it says permanent. Well, now add another color and a brand new reanimator threat that we may or may not be talking about in a minute. And then suddenly, okay, hey, let's talk about how many stupid things we can just cheat right onto the battlefield. Remember that God Pharaoh statue or the portal to Phyrexia or any of those things we were talking about like literally 30 seconds ago?
Knowledge pool, Omen Machine.
Yeah, Razaketh.
Razaketh. Why would you do that when you can put an Omen Machine into play, Ian? Come on.
You're so Lavinia coded sometimes. It's unbelievable.
I'm Lavinia pilled. Excuse you. Yeah, no, this is really cool. I really like some of the designs that they did specifically with like reanimator stuff in this set that I think is really cool. And I'm interested to see exactly what people do with this. The fact that you can reanimate permanents is pretty pog. And I'm all about that. Next card on the list is Winter Misanthropic Guide. This is a 3/4 human warlock that costs a generic, a black, a red, and a green to cast. It has Ward 2. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. And then it also has another Delirium ability. Winter has Delirium, I guess. As long as there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, each opponent's maximum hand size is equal to 7 minus the number of those card types. I really like this card. We were just talking about like, discard in Commander and like hand hate in Commander, and talking about that like classic redo crunchy Jund mid range. This is crunchy. This is peanut butter with whole peanuts in it.
This is pod racing.
I think this is a cool card. What do you think about it, Ian?
I don't know, Gal. It's a weirdie. It's a real weird card.
I fully agree with you on that.
I feel like this is one of the funniest Bowmasters commanders of all time.
Yes.
Just at the beginning of your upkeep, just
mow down the table.
Yeah. Full broad of that, and then
they can't target you with a Bowmasters because this motherfucker got Ward 2. So
I'm thinking target Bowmasters, but sure.
Well, no. Their Bowmasters can't like target the winter, or they can. Right. They're not going to be able to kill it.
Yeah, they can still wait till the winter trigger goes in the stack, flash in their Bowmasters, shoot down your Bowmasters, and then hit whatever they want apart from winter for 6, right? Which is still like really good.
It is still really good, but winter is a little Bowmaster proof with it, which to me these days feels like
feels nice. It's like a warm bath. You know what I mean? Ward is the warm bath of CEDH.
That 70s show is a warm weighted blanket for my soul. Winter is a warm bath, which definitely does not have any like rhetorical issues within it whatsoever. But overall, like I think this type of strategy, and we said it a lot on this episode, but I know I've talked about it in the past, is this type of strategy of this hand hate strategy is just really underexplored in this format. And I think it is very much, I mean, straightforwardly, it is a mid-range shell that I would love to be able to play.
Yeah. I'm very fascinated to see how it plays out, because my biggest concern is going to be like, how do you survive the early game, right? Like that is the big concern for me for this deck. And it's like, what is your deck doing with all of this advantage that you're gaining? Because you are just like full vomiting cards, right? Like the idea is that you are just ripping cards, right? And you get to take advantage of them quicker. But it's also worth noting that we are currently playing in a format where flash effects are stronger than they've ever been. So the restriction of winter of only drawing on your upkeep is not as maybe consequential as it could have been.
I think that's where I think the real issue is more so going to be getting Delirium online early enough.
Really?
Yes, specifically because if you're forcing your opponents to go down to like 2 cards max hand size, you really do a lot to not have to worry about the flash effects, right? Because if your opponents only have 2 cards in hand, who gives a shit if they have an otter in hand?
No,
Because what else are you? They have to have the card that does something for them there, right? In order to do something. And so I think the real issue for me is getting to the Delirium state, because once you have people at 3 or less cards in hand, you are really in a huge like strategic position.
Yeah, I can get that.
And I think that's the key. And so I think
my other point of concern is the situations where you go, cool, like classic 10 mana Jin Gataxia's problem, where you go, all right, draw on my turn, we have enough resources as a table to stop this person, shred their hand, stop this person, shred their hand. Okay, last player who drew 2 extra cards on your turn is now like, cool, all the other blue players in the pod don't have hands anymore.
Well, and I think this is where like this is a good Uba Mask deck. I think that this is
this would be very hot with Uba Mask. Holy shit.
Really good with Uba Mask. I think it's pretty good with like Teferi's Puzzle Box.
Okay. The 5 mana Urbrass does that too, right?
Question mark, not sure. Scryfall, don't let me down. Brask.
Yeah.
The 5 mana at the beginning of your upkeep.
Exiled.
If each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead they
okay.
exile the
So
top
it
card.
does not work like
It's
that.
only on their turn.
Yeah.
But I still think that's interesting because of the fact that like until they may play it this turn. And so what you're able to do, I still think you probably want to play that, honestly, because of the fact that you are restricting their cards in hand, right? Because they're not drawing for turn every time. You're going to force them down to like 3 cards, right? At most.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to want to play, I assume you're probably going to play stuff like Shieldred and whatnot. And so you're burning them every time they do go through on your turn. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think it's just going to need to be like, how do you put the pieces together to make it work?
Fair.
Is the issue. And I also think the other issue there is like, what is the timing you want to get winner out in the game? Because I don't know that it's a like deck where you're like, all right, cool, I want to get this out really fast. And I think that's also like a question mark that you really will only know once you play with it.
So what you're saying is the goal of the deck is to find out when winter is coming? I'm not gonna lie, if I play this deck 100% of the time when I play my commander, I get to go, winter is here.
Winter is coming.
Yeah. Oh,
sure. That's great. Yep. Next commander on our list here is Zimone, Mystery Unraveler. This is a 3/3 human wizard that costs 2 generic, a green and a blue, and has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, manifest dread. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn. Otherwise, you may turn a permanent you control face up. And to manifest dread, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature and the other into your graveyard. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it is a creature card. So what are your thoughts on this? There's a lot of like Simic bullshit commanders in this set, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. So this commander is really cool. It's so like base level top deck tutor for this commander turns into something pretty fucking crazy, right? So for example, Worldly Tutor, right? Worldly Tutor, you then play your fetch land, right? You manifest dread, the top card of your library, right? So for example, let's do Tidespout Tyrant, right? Because this is one of the loops you could possibly go through with this deck, right? The Tidespout Tyrant thing is like, it's a whole thing. Anyways. But basically the idea is that you can then go, okay, cool. Let me crack that fetch land. The second landfall comes in, flip over some big chonker, right? You can keep manifesting dread multiple times. Some big badonkadonk. It's a little bit slower, right? I will say. You do need to have a little bit of extra land synergy, stuff like that. But if you can basically find a way to make repeated landfalls, you can reset your commander through flicker effects, stuff like that. There's also a world where I think it's like if you do Deadeye Navigator, I think you need Deadeye Navigator, Peregrine Drake, and Dryad Arbor to like go infinite. It's a lot of pieces. I'm not saying that's like the win for the deck. The new Frog does it too. But the idea is like you can landfall through your entire deck if you want to even go down that avenue. But the other avenues you can go down are just like, cool, let me keep manipulating the top of my library, put a creature down. I just say one of the funniest interactions I think that you can do with this deck is put a Blightsteel on top of your library. And then when you crack a fetch land or something, just be like, cool, flip it over. Like, got you guys. And in response to no blocks, stuff like that. But I think there's like a weird like Kianne style land thing you can do with this deck. And it's cute for that reason. I don't think it's like the craziest thing in the entire world, but if you combine that with some synergies for like the morph manifest strategies that have already existed, right? Now all of a sudden you're, value manifesting off the top of your library, and oh, hey, suddenly there is a Stratus Dancer there, which is like a morph counterspell. And it's like, okay, well now I have these uncounterable counterspells that I'm also getting off the top of my library, right? So you can cook basically is the TLDR here. There's some interesting stuff. It's not as explicit as other decks that exist, right? Which you don't need it to be necessarily, right? Also, any I should say any creature land works with the loop that I talked about, right? So any land that can become a creature, right? Because what you end up doing is, so say like Mutavault, right? And say you have Deadeye Navigator, Peregrine Drake, or one of those Infinite Cloud of Fairies, any of those, right? Or the new Frog from Bloomburrow. What you can do is set up infinite mana. Then you turn the Mutavault into a land or into a creature. You go to flicker it comes back as a land, triggers landfall, right? Then you get to reset your commander by flickering that instead, right? So you do the thing over and over again, right? So there are a bunch of different ways to basically create infinite landfall triggers if you have man lands and a bunch of the infinite flicker combos. It's not like I don't know, not the craziest, most explosive combos in the world, right? But it does some pretty cool stuff. I'm also pretty sure there's something with crop rotation. I can't think of the line now, but I know there's something there with that, where you can like loop through crop rotation over and over again. Yeah, I think it's really cool stuff. As I mentioned, being able to, it's just a unique strategy that I think is actually pretty real, and it provides a lot of avenues for basically as soon as you get your commander out, like your opponents have to really respect that they can't do much to you, right? Like that's the cool stuff there.
No, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, you talking about those loops hurt my brain a little bit.
Not bad for coming up with it off the cuff, right? Like I don't know.
No, it's pretty good. It is very impressive, but you know, every time you go into one of these like blue-green loop explanations, my brain just goes like,
I don't know, Cal. I've been time twister looping for a long time.
Yeah, I hate that shit. Next card on our list is surprisingly not from the Fallout set. This is the Lord of Pain. This is a 5/5 human assassin that costs 3 generic, a black and a red, that has menace, and it says your opponents can't gain life. Whenever a player casts their first spell each turn, choose another target player. The Lord of Pain deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to the chosen player. You know the like Fallout character I'm referencing, right?
No.
Oh, they're from the New Vegas DLC.
I didn't play the DLC for that game.
Oh, okay. There's like multiple characters in that DLC that are like just assembled screens, and they like lobotomize you and shit.
Okay.
So anyway, the Lord of Pain.
Yeah. So before we talk about this, yes, I'm aware there is a strictly better version of this card at 7 mana, but the difference between
5 mana, bitch.
Yeah, the difference between 5 and 7 mana is a lot, right?
It's actually 2.
Anyways, I think this is really cool. Y'all have heard me talk about Rakdos Pain strategies for a really long time at this point. We keep getting more and more pieces. This is just a really unique commander for that type of strategy. Being basically preventative stacks, damage stacks is something I'm a really big fan of. And I think we keep getting more and more pieces to make that a real archetype. I originally misread the black-red Valgavoth and thought that card was the bee's knees. And then I realized it was like strictly worse Nixilis, but that's okay. I think this card is really interesting, and I think the ability to just sort of like lock it on the field. And once again, like if someone else is getting feisty, right? Like it doesn't have to be that person that takes the damage, right? Like you get to be like, all right, cool, everybody. The Adnaz player is at X amount of life. Like if you cast your force of will to respond to this one thing, like you can just dome them for 5. Like we'll work as a team, right? Which I think is really fun as a political tool.
Right. Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's interesting. I see some of these things, and I just like I think my biggest question when I read this, was I feel like this has a similar issue to like Yuriko in a way, where specifically that this deck kind of gets dicked over by 0 drops. I feel like as
that's super fair. Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest like critique of this is I don't know that it actually punishes players so much as it just forces players to like
sandbag cards. Yeah.
And
but it also says on each, it's not just their turns, right? It says each turn, right? So when they're countering a spell on another turn, or like it might not hurt the person being proactive as much as you want it to.
Yeah.
But everybody's interaction isn't trigger off you too, right?
Yes, it's each player.
It does trigger off you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can also play like a bunch of fucking delve spells and stuff like that are just like cool in response to you going off like, here, let me fire off this like 6 mana spell, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah, I don't
know. I'm trying to find a picture here of the think tank from Fallout New Vegas, because they're literally just like a bunch of fucking screens. And this immediately made me think of it when I saw this card get previewed. Here, I sent it to you in Discord. These are like what a bunch of the characters in that DLC look like. They're just.
Oh yeah, okay. I actually have seen screenshots of that. That's
Yeah,
really
funny. But yeah, no, this is interesting. I think you bring up like a lot of good points. I think it's just like I think I compare it to Yuriko because it's like a very similar thing, right? Where it's like, okay, if it's a 0 drop, you're kind of SOL, and if it's like a lower drop spell, you're kind of just like, well, I wish that was better, but and I think that's kind of my biggest critique of it. Other than that, though, I think this is really sick.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of upside here.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't be a Mind Sculptors episode if I wasn't, cynical old Cal over here being like, well, did you think about this, kiddo?
Yeah, I do really like the idea of pyrokinesising somebody and then doming them for 6. That's pretty.
That is pretty sexy. I gotta be honest.
Yeah,
that
makes like
makes me feel
that's
things
the kind of
inside.
stuff I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that really makes me feel things that I should probably talk to a priest about. Next card on this list is Valgavoth, Terror Eater. This is a 9/9 Elder Demon that costs 6 generic mana and 3 black mana. It has flying and lifelink. And Ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. And also, during your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. This card fucking whips. This card's so cool. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this, Ian?
New reanimator threat detected? ?
Something like this. I think this is cool because it reminds me of like Turgrid, but like functional. You know what I mean? Like it's like Turgrid, but it works.
Yeah.
Like
I genuinely think so. It's if a card you didn't control will be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile instead, right? So like Mesmeric Orb, how many cards are you going to mill on an opponent's turn, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like the weird part about this is you want like to get it out and then almost like pass with the Mesmeric Orb, right? Like that's almost like how I feel about it, right? Like you want some sort of effect that is going to, or at least something that you can have on the battlefield that immediately like taps to mill someone for 13 or something stupid like that, right? Like you want that kind of payoff for it, right? Mm-hmm. And then it turns into something busted, right? But it needs that first, right? So that's my only complaint about it is like, to be clear, like it's not like when you play it, it sticks and your opponents are like, oh, okay, well I can just swords it, right? Like they have to sacrifice 3 fucking non-land permanents.
Yeah,
right?
like this is a card that I think for as far as reanimator things go is going to be hard to get off the fucking table.
Yes,
that is a huge.
That's what I like about it for sure. Yeah.
I think if it didn't have Ward, I would not be thinking about it, honestly, like just straightforwardly.
And honestly, we've been kind of looking for like value reanimates for a long time, or like reanimates that work when someone's just cheating in a big creature and then leaving it there for a hot minute. And like, it's great at that. Like that is the best thing it does. Right.
Well, and I think like it's also really good because like, we talk about these reanimator strategies, right? And you need to have targets for reanimation that aren't just your bomb, right? Like you got to have other cards that aren't Razaketh, that aren't Hullbreaker Horror. Yep. And I think that this is a pretty like sexy option. I got to be honest. Like
it also has a really interesting relationship with Grinding Station because
really
if you keep hitting artifacts off your opponent's decks, there's like a certain amount of non-determinism that like allows you to mill a good portion of their decks, right?
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff with this that I think is really neat. I would like to. I'm curious if anybody will try this as a commander. I think it's a little expensive.
It is very.
But I think that being said, like, you know, as far as mono black goes, I think this is like more interesting to me than Crick. Like, I mean, not that I think that I would do this, but like, I think as far as mono black goes, you know, I think this is certainly interesting.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think this is mostly like a reanimator target. Like, I think it's really neat. And I'll be interested to see what people do with this. You and I are going to be working on some fucking reanimator, baby. And that is, we have not done that in a hot minute.
I know. I thought Broodlord was going to fix all our problems, then it didn't. And now we're here, and I'm at least better, feeling better about that.
Yeah. I think Broodlord just, it incentivizes you to go faster than you really want to go, I think is the issue.
Yep.
But
at that point, why aren't you playing Nas, right? Like,
exactly. Anywho, that is it for our first episode in our pretty much normal 2-parter set review tradition at this point. Ian, for those who are out there that would like to find you, get some cEDH coaching, all that good shit, where can people find you?
Hey everybody, Ian, youtubechannel.com, youtubechannel.com. Nice, good, strong.
Go check me out on the YouTube, kids.
Hey fellow youths.
There was a time when I was in high school when I was like sitting there like hanging out with a friend on Skype one day during like a snow emergency. And my dad like came down on my door and opened it. He's like, "You've been on the YouTube way too much today." And I was like, "Dad, you sound like you're 1,000,000 years old." Anyhow.
Okay. All right. Here, man, I wiped it. Hey, everybody. It's Ian here. I am full-time doing professional coaching for cEDH. If that is something you're interested in doing, you can reach out to me at ComedIanMTG@gmail.com. You can find me on my own channel at youtube.com/ComedIanMTG, on Instagram and Twitter at ComedIanMTG, Comedian_MTG on Discord, a lot of different places. The Cal is very nice to link in the link tree. And okay, I thought you were going to interject. That was just a cocked eyebrow finger gun. Got it. If you want a full resume, I could give you one. You'll run out of space.
He's won 2 time twisters. That's all you got to
know. Speaking of which, by the time this episode comes out, I might have my time twister tattoo, which is kind of fun.
That's fucking sick, dude.
Yeah, I was like, it is such an iconic moment in my career. Like, I have to get it.
Are you just getting like the card tattooed on you, or
I'm getting the hands in the hourglass, not the melty guy.
I think it'd be hilarious if you just got like the full card with like text box and everything.
Oh, like text box and everything.
Yeah, that's just full on the card. Like on one arm you get the time twister, like for the front face here, and then the other side you have the magic card back. And you're like, you can flip me over, or you could have it on your chest and the other part on your back.
That's not happening, but that's
just full from like nipples to your belly button. There's just a time twister.
Oh my God.
If you want to support the Mind Sculptors, you can head on over to patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors. I was working on setting a date to speak to somebody to kind of look at the Patreon and get it a little bit revamped. And then the community had an explosion, and we decided to wait a little bit. Since that human being has a lot going on at the current moment. So that being said, if you want to help support us out, head over to patreon.com. We fully support it, or fully appreciate it. If you don't want to spend any money or can't spend any money, just use the free interaction buttons of hitting the subscribe button or leaving a comment or like on YouTube. Currently, we are at 9,541 subscribers on YouTube. We're trying to get to that 10,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year. So if everybody watching this video was subscribed, we would get there this afternoon. So head down, hit that subscribe button. It's a huge help to us in the channel. You have no idea how much it helps. It really does so much to get us into the algorithm, all of that jazz. So please pay, give your tithe to Lord algorithm Christ, and the something prayers, something lime scooters. Stay sculpty, everybody. I'm Cal.
I'm Ian.
We'll see you next week with part 2 of our Duskmourn Separate.